And you said in the email, what few Americans know is that, number one, Congress rejected President Trump's drastic cuts to global health, and two, ordinary citizens played a key role. And you quote some numbers about the total spend on global health. In fiscal year 25, it was 10.03 billion. Trump requested in fiscal year 26 3.79 billion. But what was enacted for fiscal year 26 was 9.4 billion. I mean, that's amazing that, that it's less than in 25, but not what the administration asked for. And what's interesting about this, and you say they didn't do it by protesting, though protest matters, nor by funding lawsuits, though lawsuits matter, or even through elections work, though elections matter. They did it through transformational advocacy, building relationships with elected officials who make decisions in their name. So can you say more about, this news?
Let me give you one example. The Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria was launched in 2002 when AIDS was raging around the world, but especially in Africa. And for this year, 2026, President Trump proposed a 55% cut from 1.65 billion to 800 million for the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria. Well, the final number was not Trump's 800 million, but 1.25 billion. And I want to put a little bit of human face on it. This time, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and Malaria and its partners have saved 70 million lives since 2002.
Right.
And so it really matters. I'm going to actually sneak in your question before we started. You were saying before you even started, and you want to flesh it out a bit more.
Yeah.
But we have budget deficits.
I think that was exactly my question. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we know, especially with global health, and we saw with COVID, global health matters to all of us. But still, it's so hard to reconcile, and using a budget word, even though I'm fancy me. How these things get budgeted and spent, and the overall deficit, and what our values are. I mean, so if any wisdom you could add to all that.
Yes. And I'm going to use a quote from the late Republican U.S. Senator Mark Hatfield of Oregon, who in I think it was 1984 or 83, this is what he said. I mean, it's mind-blowing for me. He said, and it's particularly poignant at the moment, he said, "We stand by as children starve by the millions." Now, again, this is 40-something years ago. He said, "We stand by as children starve by the millions because we lack the will to eliminate hunger. Yet we have found the will to develop missiles capable of flying over the polar cap and landing within a few hundred feet of their target. This is not innovation. It is a profound distortion of humanity's purpose on Earth." End of quote. So I think if we could use the question of what is humanity's purpose on Earth and what is a distortion of that, and et cetera, et cetera. There were calls to raise the defense budget for the next fiscal year, which would be 2027, by 50% to something like $1.5 trillion. Well, even today, the U.S. defense budget is larger than the next 10 countries combined. If you take the next 10 most spending countries in defense, our budget is larger than all of those. So it's a great question. And at the same time, it's a question, as you said, that begs a question of values. And as Hatfield said, humanity's purpose on Earth, what is it? And does this forward it? Does this forward humanity? Does this forward it? And that's a question we have to grapple with.
Yeah.
I think it also speaks to the importance of where we put our time and attention and coalescing
Mhm.
around people who, like Lynn's question about your good news.
Mhm.
Find the people that will reflect the values and ferret out the good news, even when it'll get submarined or, never aired by mainstream media, or people who who are attached to the darkness
Mhm.
Yeah.
because it becomes fruitful for them.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I
Yeah.
want to make the distinction between people who find the good news and the people who propel it
Mhm.
or help
Yeah.
to make it happen. 60 members of the House of Representatives signed a letter, one letter signed by 160 to the two top appropriators calling for robust funding for the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Well, if I'm one of those volunteers in Seattle or Atlanta or Santa Fe, New Mexico, or anywhere in the country
Mhm.
who's part of an organization that's giving you this news and saying, call your member of Congress, urge them to sign this letter and it's going to the chair and ranking, that's the Republican and the lead Democrat on a
Mhm.
subcommittee with 11 members. But where I'm going with this is rather than finding the good news, it's like causing the
Mm.
good news
Hmm.
because I was on the phone. I was in that meeting. I was with the letter to the editor. I
Yeah.
was educating my member of Congress and the community to some extent
Hmm.
on an action that they can take.